What's excitement like in this building?
We're all excited.
Yeah.
I mean, we are. We got to be smart. You know, the expectations are through the roof now for the third year in a row. Something you got to talk about, you got to address. You know, pressure's a privilege. I've explained to them expectations are kind of like fire. If it's used correctly, it's great. You know, fire can, I don't have to sit here and state the obvious of all the good things fire can do. I know JJ and I'd be thinking about food mainly. And if you use it correctly, you know, it's really well done, right? Correctly. But if the expectations consume you, and you know, fire can burn a house down, or see what was done to Hawaii. Fire can be in a very bad way. So I think we all have to be, can't neglect and ignore that everybody you see in the city's like, we got to win this year. We want to go to the Pac-12 or the Big 12 or ACC. No, we've got Houston in 14 days. Everybody calm down.
Do you talk to the guys about the new league at all? Is that like a motivating factor that you lean on, or is that doesn't come up?
Houston, 14 days. I mean, we don't look further than that. Now, are they doing that without my permission? For sure. Do we know we've got Temple after an open week? Yes. I mean, we talk a lot about telescopes and microscopes, and you got to pull back on the telescope some, take a zoom out approach. But we try to stay zoomed in as much as possible. It's just so many things out there, so much noise. You'll get so distracted you won't be any good. And if we can't line up and run inside zone against Houston correctly, or it's not, none of that's going to matter.
Are there any negatives to having just this much continuity and these many guys back and these much expectations? Like, do you ever worry that it, lack of a better word, gets a little boring for those guys and you got to find new ways to motivate them?
Talk about it all the time. You think Tiger Woods didn't get bored? You think Steph Curry doesn't get bored? You think Larry Bird didn't get bored? The great ones can handle boredom. I mean, it's mentally weak people can handle boredom. I mean, it's hard. I agree, but I hope I'd sign Frank Harris to a 20-year contract, and we would fight boredom every day for the rest of our lives if I could, Mike. But that your point is very true, but you got to talk about it. And you got to bring up Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard and Jack Nicklaus and the great ones, and you got to read all you can about them, how they talk about how they handle boredom, how they had the ability to, that next shot was still the most important shot, even though it was the most 10,000th rep of the day, maybe, for whatever example you want to use. But something we talk about quite a bit. Bill Russell wrote a book on it, just on how to handle boredom. And I can fix it, because I can put your tail on the bench and you'll be bored in a whole nother way. And some of my guys fix to get that this weekend. It won't be Frank, but there's gonna be some of them.
Speaking of like the relationship with Frank, right? Like, what were your first impressions of him, and how much has that relationship grown over?
All those years ago, I mean, when I first, you know, it's a great question. I say that a lot. You always ask a lot of good questions. I try to stop.
I think this is how you
I tried to stop doing that.
I think it's how you.
I think it's when I like the question. I have a good answer. That's a good question, right? I can remember voting, and there weren't a lot of votes in the room for Frank. He wasn't a great practice player. I mean, he didn't throw the ball real good back in the day. That dude, just something about him, I've always thought he had magic in him. And I was right. And I'm not saying I'm the only one that voted for him. And no one's going to say who they voted for. They're all going to swear they voted for him now, right? But he's just always had magic. His ability to lead, his ability to interpret the room, to read people, to know how to motivate people, he's just got something to him. And when you meet his father and his mother, you kind of get a sense where that comes from. And he's got that it. You know, it's only 2 letters, but he's got that it factor. Always has had it. And he's just gotten better. His arm's gotten stronger, understands the offense. He's a really good practice player now, and he's a great gamer as well. I'll never forget the Texas State, his very first game. I'm like, Jiminy Cricket, who am I getting to coach here? And then, you know, we had some struggles with injuries, which has always been kind of his deal. Managing him, getting him to the games is the hardest part.
Do you know when that changed? Like when everybody in the room started voting for Frank Harris? Like when was that moment where it's like, oh, this is undeniable?
I would say year 2. I don't think it was year 1. I think I think the entire program was in a struggle. I don't think anybody was still for me after year one. It was just a struggle. Every game was like a slugfest, ugly right down to the wire, and somehow we won more than we lost. But I would say year two, probably going to Illinois, winning that game on national TV, and then leading the comeback versus Memphis. And then the magic started to happen, right? I mean, you had the UAB magic, you had the Western Kentucky magic over there. Sucker started just putting, even magician, literally 2-minute drives. I mean, I think we've had to kick the ball off with like less than 3 seconds. I think 3 times since we've been here. We started to work the play. Now we have a name for the play now, just because we got to be prepared for everybody throwing it around, running reverses, because there's probably going to be a few times Frank's going to do that again before his career's over with. He's magic. He reminds me of Fran Tarkin and Roger Staubach for us older guys back in the day. You know, that's who Frank is.
You're 2 weeks out from Houston, but then the week after that is Texas State, which has been a rivalry, and then now with the added of their head coach being Kenny, just kind of taking a step back, do you ever think about how great that's going to be to see him again and try to coach against him?
Well, this is a tremendous culture pillar violation, right? So I'd love to talk about it in 15 days, Stephen, but I got to worry about Dana Holgerson and the Houston Cougars right now. And the only reason I'm being so strict on my rule right now, I just threaten all my players with their lives if they broke a culture pillar. So I can't be a head coach and be a terrible example right now. But in 15 days, I'd love to comment on my boy,
All right,
Jay Kenny.
15 days.
Jeff, I wanted to ask you about Houston. That was kind of one that got away last season. Does it still eat at you?
Yeah, it does. That was tough. Just because of nothing like we're trying to be disrespectful to Houston.
Right.
They won the game. Just the energy we put in the game. And losing at home, I just think that's just got to be a no-no for us. It's just got to be where everybody knows when they come in the Alamo Dome that we're just hard to beat. And that's the second one we've let slip away in 3 years, which I know a lot of people would be very proud of that. And we are proud of that. But, you know, that one hurt. Because we gave an effort. The more amazing thing is the bounce back the next week with the adversity and going to overtime. Might have been multiple overtimes there. I'm not really for sure. I know that Houston was 3, maybe Army was 2. I'm not really for sure. That's what I'm even more proud of. But yeah, that's been a burn under our saddle. And again, Toon made plays, and we didn't make them down the stretch. And that Tank made plays. That catch he made over there was crazy. So, yeah.
Coach, we talked about this before, but the sort of public appeal to get Frank back to your fans, what was that? What was the process like to keep Frank here? Was it a fight? Is Frank want to be here? I mean, obviously he wanted to be here, but what was that like to sort of, how hard is it to keep your quarterback nowadays?
No, it wasn't like that at all, really. I would have felt terrible. I mean, I know the injuries he's been through and the stuff. I don't want him to be here because of me. I think what helped more than anything was the excitement of going to the new conference. All those guys coming back. I think that was, you know, we were supposed to lose a lot of those players, and they all got injured, so they all had to come back. So he's like, heck, we're going to be pretty good. I'm not riding in here with these boys and do this again. Obviously, the NIL always matters, but Frank can make more money in the real world than his NIL deal. He's doing pretty good with his NIL deal. But in the free market, Frank Harris in this city, I mean, there's going to be a lot of businesses lined up to hire Frank Harris. He's got an amazing story. I'd put him in sales and turn him loose, and he'd make some millionaire a billionaire.
Jeff, you guys have 4 very viable starters at safety. What has the competition been like at that position?
Coach Leo's very creative. He's got ways of getting those guys out there, and they're all going to play. We're going to need them all. We're just so much deeper on that side of the ball. Our special teams are going to be better because of it, just because of the depth and the athletes that we have over there.
Do you think we could see Ken Robinson at corner some? I know it seemed like he was getting a little more specialized during the spring.
I hope not. I hope our depth's good enough out there we don't have to use him. But if we need to, we will put him out there.
What are the challenges of 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years?
Yeah, that's another great question, Mike. I'm thrilled for Barry Loney Jr. Yeah, I'm thrilled for Will Stein. but I'm very excited for Justin Bird. And, you know, each one is presented its own situation because you want the carryover. And because I move everybody up, there's also the domino effect all the way down. It sounds great to move everybody up, but when you do it, there's a ripple effect. Well, that means everybody got elevated. So it's not just moving Burke that does it all, it's the rest of it too. But you know, Justin and I have been together so long that there's nothing there schematically. He's a brilliant coach. He's an unbelievable worker. And I hope I lose him again, because that means we're scoring a lot of points and somebody took another one from me and we'll move somebody else up.
Is there a challenge between like, this is the stuff that works and you know the system, you know what we like to run, versus like, you're your own guy, go figure it out yourself and kind of find your own mode?
We have enough offense that he can still kind of do that. We've got a pretty broad scope of offense. It's more of him and I sitting down and just deciding like, what do our team do really well. That's what Will did a great job of last year, is in the middle of the game, you know, him and I basically decided like, we're not going to be able to run the ball anymore. We don't have any linemen left. So we became extremely quick game, RPO driven until we got our linemen back, which is about week 10. So there was about a 9-week stretch there where I thought Will did a really good job. And I'd like to just get totally out of the way. But the more it changes, the more I've got to just make sure we're looking the way we want it to look. And I repeat, I'm not going to be the one actually calling it, but there's a certain way it needs to look with the style of athlete that we have.
You say you want to get out of the way, but I don't know if you really do.
Well, it's just, I just learned in my past, the more jobs I fire myself from, the better my team is. So I need to fire myself as much as possible and keep the head coach cap on and not meddle too much.
How much of that job has changed? Like, I mean, I'm from here, right? Steve's from here. We know what you inherited at UTSA. Like, how much of that other stuff don't you have to do anymore?
Well, we're a new program, so there's always the fundraising element that you got to be very active in as the head football coach. So there's that, and then you throw NIL in there, then you throw transfer portal in there, and that has become, overwhelming would be too strong. But you're pulled in a lot of different places a lot. Yeah. And when you want to be a good husband and a good father and a good coach and friends to people, you know, it's just, there's a lot. And I hate not getting text return and phone calls, not back to my buddies. And, you know, but it's just the way of the new world. It's a great place. I love it. And it doesn't ever really seem like work to me. It's when I'm, you know, not getting back to my kids or not getting back to my wife that you got to do some checking to make sure you can survive this chaos.
I just always wonder, like, how much percentage of football you get to coach nowadays compared to like 10 years ago as a head coach or something. You know, not just you. Just
that doesn't change on the field. The hardest part is, like, I got 51 plays graded in there, and I haven't seen my defense yet. But I've got 51 plays of offense graded, so I've still got 24 plays left. Getting that in, they're in there going to be installing here, and I'm in here, that kind of stuff, you know. In the season, believe it or not, it gets easier because people somehow leave you alone.
They know.
Well, it's almost like people don't think you work from January to August.
We get that, I'm
so
sure. Like,
that's where everybody bothers the heck out of you. And that's really where you're the most distracted, because you're recruiting, you're fundraising, you're doing a lot of things. And from August to December, people just like literally just go away, and you get some actual football, believe it or not. So football season is my most stressful time because of the state obvious, but it's also my most relaxing time because you're in your real element the whole year.
I have a step back question.